Hello everyone, and welcome to I 100%, a series in which I will attempt to play games that have piqued my interest or have been recommended to me by you, the viewers. In these games, my objective is not only to beat the game, but to explore any post-game content that is available, as well as completing every achievement the game has to offer. Today on I 100%, we are taking on the game Cuphead, a 2017 run-and-gun action game with a heavy artistic influence from cartoons of the 1930s. The game focuses mainly on epic boss battles that challenge you in a variety of ways, and a few side-scrolling levels that bombard you with smaller enemies. There are several other unique challenges the game has to offer, but we will get to those shortly. Also, the achievements in this game total up to 42, with some specific to the DLC portion and others that are accessible throughout the entire playthrough. So, without further ado, let's dive right in. We are introduced to our protagonists, Cuphead and Mugman, and their gentle guardian, Elder Kettle. One day, the boys wandered far from home, and ended up in the Devil's Casino. Once inside, they ended up on a hot streak, unable to lose, and raking in the dough. The owner of the casino, the Devil himself, notices the boys' winning streak and offers them to raise the stakes. If they win one more roll, they win everything in the casino, but if they lose, the Devil will own their souls. Cuphead grabs the dice and rolls without thinking twice. He ends up losing the roll, and now both himself and Mugman owe the Devil their souls. Pleading for their lives, the Devil conjures up another way for the boys to repay him, by retrieving the souls of some runaway debtors. The Devil kicks them out, and the boys are set off on a mission to collect the souls so they can save their own. We end up back at home and talk to the Elder Kettle, who acknowledges the predicament we have gotten ourselves into. He insists that we must go through with the deal, and gives us a potion to help us fight against the debtors. We're then directed to the inkwell on the table. We hop into the quick tutorial to teach us the basics of Cuphead's movement and attack options. In the tutorial, we are taught how to duck to evade incoming projectiles, how to jump as well as dash in midair or grounded to dodge any threats, dropping down through thin platforms, how to shoot, which will be our main form of damage throughout this game, the ability to lock our position if we need to hit in more precise angles, and finally one of the most important tools is the parry, a way to negate damage while airborne and interacting with pink objects or projectiles. If you notice, it also increases our super meter in the bottom left corner each time we land a parry. The super meter allows us to spend points in order to unleash an extremely strong attack once the meter is full, or alternatively use 1 point of the meter to use a stronger attack of the gun we are currently using, each unique to the weapon we currently have equipped. We pick up our very first coin and complete the tutorial, prepping us for the treacherous battles that lie ahead. Now, before we look at the gameplay, we have to break down the achievements that we have to tackle. I divided the achievements up into lists, as we will cover certain groups during our initial playthrough of the storyline. Our first list of achievements is this: casual achievements. Defeat a boss, find a shortcut, complete a level without getting hit, parry 20 times, parry 100 times, parry 5 times before hitting the ground, defeat a boss with an extra special move, defeat a boss with a super art, obtain all the super arts, defeat all the bosses on Inkwell Aisle 1, 2, 3, and finish the casino, give in to the Devil as well as defeat the Devil, complete the game entirely on normal, get all coins in every level, and get every coin in the game. Once we gain access to the overworld, we take a tour around talking to everyone and looking for any secrets littered around the map. We speak to this dainty little apple fellow, and he gives us 3 coins. Strolling around the cliff's edge, we discover a shortcut that gives us access to the other side of the isle early. Once finished with our stroll of the island, we backtrack to our first boss fight, the Root Pack. The Root Pack starts off with a potato that fires a barrage of dirt balls at us, as well as a pink worm near the end of this attack, which gives us an opportunity to parry it. This is his only attack pattern, so he falls to our shots quickly. Next is the onion that pops out of the ground, which is easy pickings because we can just fire off shots, and the only thing we need to dodge is the tears that fall from above. Every so often, a pink tear will fall, but they aren't necessary to parry. As quickly as he emerges, he has fallen. And finally up to bat is the carrot, that for some reason has a third eye that can fire off these psychic projectiles. Similarly to the other 2 faces before him, he doesn't actually move. And as long as you dodge the beams and the floating carrots, he's easy to take down. At the end of each boss fight, we are also graded on our performance. For the meantime, I am going to gloss over these gradings, because after we are done with our first playthrough, we're going to backtrack to work on improving these grades. So with our first boss fight down, and a perfect score to go along with it, we can head on to the next level. We stop quickly to talk to this shifty looking coin. He doesn't seem too trusting, but he does let us in on a secret, that he's hidden his coins around the islands because he doesn't trust the bank. In telling us this, we now know that each island has 1 hidden coin that we can find and add to our wallet. Ribby and Croaks is our next fight, which are 2 frog brothers that are looking for a fight. Ribby swings his fists, shooting glowing boxing gloves at us with pink parryable gloves mixed in, while Croak spits out fireflies that hover above us, slowly fly down, and deal damage. In their second phase, Ribby barrels forwards and now the brothers have surrounded us. Croaks creates a constant stream of wind in an attempt to throw off our movement, while Croaks throws more projectiles at us. The key here was timing your movement with the wind to dodge the bouncing balls. In their third phase, Ribby and Croaks combine together and turn into a huge slot machine that can be activated by parrying the handle. Once you parry it, they choose between 3 different attack patterns displayed on their slots. All 3 patterns are manageable, especially if you stay near the far left, giving yourself ample time to decide where to move. Ribby and Croaks go down shortly after. Before our next task, we check out the shop known as Pork Rind's Emporium. With our limited funds, we pick up the smoke bomb, which will now convert our dash into a dash with invulnerability frames, allowing us to dodge through hazards and appearing on the other side. Forest Follies is our first run and gun level. There are 6 total throughout the game, and these side-scrolling levels have a ton of smaller enemies and usually a mini-boss near the end. Also important to note that these levels all contain 5 coins that we must collect not only for achievements, but also for us to buy more weapons and abilities to aid us in our fights. In this level, we have to keep note that there are little mushrooms that can shoot pink projectiles, small pink butterflies, and pink spiky balls that can all be parried. Near the end of the level, we encounter an easy mini-boss in the shape of an acorn maker. He falls easily and we dash to the end of the level, scoring us 5 coins in the process. With our new cash in hand, we stop at Pork Rinds briefly and pick up the spread weapon for 4 coins. It's a shotgun-like attack, short range, but a large burst of bullets. By staying up close and personal to our target, we can take advantage of the high damage output and kill foes quickly. Goopy Legrand is our first victim we get to use the spread shot on. Goopy is a little blue goop ball that bounces back and forth, allowing us to easily bombard him with a constant flow of damage. He will punch forward every so often, but by ducking down, we can continue to attack and completely dodge his attack. Once he turns into phase 2, he lets out 3 pink question marks that we can quickly parry, and then he becomes a larger, angry version of himself. His attack pattern is practically identical, it's just that his distance while jumping is a bit different, and he's significantly larger. In this third phase, Goopy becomes a moving headstone that slides left and right while slamming down intermittently to attack us. We can stay close to him and attack with spread while quickly dashing to the side when we notice his slam attack start. We get our knockout and keep moving on. Before the next boss fight, we have to go through a tutorial to show us how to fight using the airplane. In these levels, we are bound to the sky and have to use a different method to attack. We shoot like usual and can turn ourselves tiny to dodge incoming damage, though our bullets shrink as well. Parrying is still available to us and special moves can still be used at the cost of points from our super meter. Hildeberg has the privilege of being our first target with our newfound flying abilities. This airborne assailant laughs at us while we try to take her down. Her small Zeppelin minions also shoot bullets at us, and sometimes fire pink shots for us to parry. When she takes enough damage, Hilda charges up and flies at us, and creates a constellation. Now, depending on the pattern of the constellation, it will determine what form she takes, and she has access to 3 forms, them being a bull that can charge at us, the cyclonic twins that create a turret that fires fast-moving bullets at us, and the archer that can fire a single arrow followed by 3 blue bullet-like projectiles. After taking down her forms, she turns into herself for a short time, resuming her laughing and minions shooting bullets. She then adds a tornado attack to throw us off, but this phase is short-lived. In her final phase, Hilda turns herself into a giant crescent moon. Stars begin to fly at us from the right, as well as spaceships that have various attack pattern timings that we have to be aware of. The red ships tend to attack when they are close to the far left of the screen, whereas the yellow ships tend to attack anywhere as long as you are close enough. So by baiting out the yellow ships and knowing where the red ships attack, you can freely fire at Hilda and take her down. On our way to the final boss of Aisle 1, we run into Chippy, an axe friend that has a chip on his blade. He seems to be hiding a coin behind a tree, but for now we can't access it. Instead, we continue to the final fight of Aisle 1. Cagney Carnation, in theory, should be a nice kind flower, but I guess because we're here to take his soul, I can kinda get why he's pissed off. This fight is a real bullet hell, because he has so many different attack patterns that can be quite confusing. When he fires down a rate of seeds, we have to be quite careful to make sure we parry the pink seed, avoid the others, kill the plants that emerge from the seeds, and then go back to fight Cagney. It's a bit jarring at first, but once you do the fight multiple times, you tend to get into the swing of it. Phase 2 includes him alternating between a blue boomerang and a buckshot of 3 acorns that fly towards us. We can keep the damage steady and duck beneath the boomerang to clear up this phase. Phase 3 begins when Cagney shoots his arms into the ground and creates these vines, that not only make the ground unsafe, but also will occasionally shoot up and make certain platforms dangerous to stand on. Luckily, these are predictable because we can see what platform he intends to attack for a brief moment. Along with this, he spits out seeds that can damage us, so we have to be mindful of multiple dangers at the same time. He falls shortly after, and that concludes all the boss fights of Isle 1. Also, because we defeated Cagney, Chip also moves to the side slightly, which lets us now pick up the first secret coin available to us. We then move over to the second run and gun level of Isle 1. Treetop Trouble has us ascending a hollowed out tree that is filled with woodpeckers and tons of bouncy ladybugs that are here to halt our progress. We move all the way to the right until we reach a vertical area where we have to use floating platforms to attack and dodge wasp enemies, and these tree stumps that can spit spiky balls at us. I found myself being so impatient with this level, and I don't remember how many times I died to these dang enemies. It became so infuriating, but luckily we made it through. Once we reach the top, we have to platform across these flying mosquito dudes that are holding leaves above their heads. We can only stand on them for a brief moment before they get annihilated by these flaming orbs that rise from the ground. When we reach the end, we find the source of these fireballs, this large mosquito, mantis, fly-like thing that spits fire. I don't know, man, you tell me what this thing's supposed to be. We knock him out and dash to the finish, netting us 5 more coins. That leaves us with one final task on Isle 1. Walking down to the mausoleum, we see a fish. Fishing. Go figure. Anyway, she hints to us that in the mausoleum there are ghosts that we can't shoot, but we are able to parry them. So we heed her warning and head into the depths. Once inside, a shaking urn in the center of the room screams for help, and the fight begins. For this challenge, a wave of pink ghosts flood the room, which require us to parry them all before they can make contact with the urn. They approach at a fairly slow rate, so the challenge is quite manageable. But also note that there are other mausoleum challenges later in the game, and each increase in difficulty. After dispatching of the final ghosts, we win, and in doing so, free Miss Chalice. She is a character that aids us throughout our journey by providing us with a variety of abilities to use in battle. She unlocks for us Super 1, a strong beam of energy that can be used when our super meter is full, aka 5 charges. These beams only fire horizontally, so for some foes that are above or below us, we may find this hard to use. Before heading off to Isle 2, we check out Pork Ryan's shop once more and pick up Roundabout and Chaser. Roundabout acting like a boomerang type weapon that deals more damage the longer the projectile is in the air, and Chaser an auto aim projectile that does less damage but automatically homes in on enemies. After our shopping spree, we continue on through the die house that separates Isle 1 and 2. King Dice is waiting for us inside, and he acknowledges our victory over the bosses of Isle 1. Because of our unwavering loyalty, he grants us passage into Isle 2, where there are many more foes awaiting our arrival. Just as we step into the next area, Elder Kettle manages to catch up with us to tell us what he thinks is a way out. He believes that by continuing our work with the devil, we may be able to get close enough to him and King Dice, and soon take them on ourselves. So in order to get close enough, we must continue with collecting those soul contracts for the foreseeable future. Now that we're in Isle 2, we take a stroll around and speak with this little fellow who unlocks a new attack in our airplane form, bombs. After which, we speak with the 3 very depressed looking barbershop trio that is worried about their friend that would complete their barbershop quartet. We are tasked to find their friends somewhere in Isle 2, but we'll tackle that soon enough. Next, we bite the bullet and take on our next foe. Baroness Fun Bonbon is the first of the Isle 2 bosses we will encounter. The fight consists of her sending out a variety of mini-bosses at random, including the Jawbreaker, Gumball Machine, Waffle Man thing, and this stupid freaking muffin cupcake thing dude. Like I mentioned before, her phase 1 consists of her sending out these mini-bosses, one by one. She will send out a total of 3 of them before beginning her second phase. Also, during the mini-boss fights, she will intermittently send out tiny little foot soldiers that run across the bottom of the screen to disrupt her movement. Some do show up as pink, allowing us to parry them. Each mini-boss has their own strategy to follow, but they all have quite a low HP pool, so they fall very quickly. Phase 2 consists of the Baroness throwing her literal head at us. It spins and moves in a weird delayed chase pattern, according with your movement. Also, her castle transforms into a beast that begins to chase us down, launching giant rolling candies that are parryable. The Roundabout works perfect here because we can look away and manage our movement while still hitting her hard with the returning projectiles. We send Baroness von Bye-Bye and take on our next challenge. Jimmy the Great is the first airborne boss of Isle 2, and I'm sorry to say it, Jimmy, but you ain't that hard, bud. Phase 1 has Jimmy pick one of 3 projectiles to release from his chest. It's either swords that seek you out, cat toys that home in on you, or a barrage of treasure flying out of his chest. While bobbing and weaving through the projectile storm, he will occasionally send out a skull from his face, which moves in a straight line. Easy to avoid. Phase 2 turns him into these pillars that have faces on them. You have to destroy the pillars with faces and avoid the bouncing blades that move between the columns. Not too hard of a phase. But if you do rush, you can easily tank damage by accidentally touching the pillars. Phase 3 has Jimmy turn into this slug guy that pops out of a sarcophagus, shooting his eyeballs out and sending mummy ghosts to hit us. Not too hard. In Phase 4, Jimmy tries to mock us and take on our form and tries to shoot at us while also firing projectiles from his turban. Again, another quick phase, but full of projectiles. And finally, with phase 5, he takes on his final form as Big Jimmy. Sonic beams fire from his forehead, while 3 pyramids cycle around us, intermittently firing off lasers. Big Jimmy goes down big time, granting us another soul contract. Beppy the Clown looks like he's just having a good time in his funhouse, and we're just here to kill the vibe. Beppy starts off in a bumper car, moving back and forth with ducks flying above us. A very easy phase and a quick one. Phase 2, Balloon Beppy sends out his balloon dogs and a roller coaster that we have to be aware of as they move across the floor of the stage. The balloons pop so quickly and nothing moves particularly fast in this phase, so it goes off without a hitch. Phase 3 has Beppy riding his trusty donkey steed, while the roller coaster continues to travel on the floor. The donkey has 2 attack patterns with how he fires up the horseshoes that we need to dodge, but it's easy to tell which attack he's going for due to the fact that each attack is associated with the color. The final phase of Beppy is this big old carousel, and he turns up the gas on the roller coaster too. The roller coaster picks up speed, and occasionally Beppy will also spit out penguins that throw baseballs at you. I don't know how this makes sense, but you just gotta roll with it. The baseball penguins are narrowly avoided, and Beppy is no more. Funhouse Frazzle is our next run and gun, and let me just say this level definitely had me frazzled. The gimmick of this level is that by interacting with the pink parry cards, we can flip gravity and allow Cuphead to walk on the ceiling. Now, this is very important because some enemies and obstacles are tough to avoid unless we use these cards. The start has these duck toys that we're able to duck under, while the opposite side has a convoy of cars. By flipping the gravity, we can avoid getting hit by the cars. Once we reach this wall, we can stop and deal some damage before it gives way to the next section. This area has star cannons that rotate 45 degrees and fire off volleys of cannonballs. We try our best to avoid them and the rocket enemies that roll across the floor. After that mess, we have the final stretch of the level. In this section, there are jacks that fly around. Luckily, we can kill them very quickly, and some of them can also be parried. Not only are there jacks here, but a bunch of these giant tubas. By standing on the opposite gravity of the tuba, we're able to kill them or skip past them without much trouble. Finally, we are met with one more gigantic green wall that blocks the exit. We wait patiently, deal good damage, and get the heck out of this dang funhouse. Now that we can take a breath of fresh air and stroll around the overworld for a little bit, we end up running into this lightbulb NPC that lets us know about the being Quadratus that lives on the Isle. It's another NPC that we can speak to that lets us know how many deaths we currently have up to this point, but more importantly, next to Mr. Lightbulb is the Mausoleum number 2. Similar to the Mausoleum on Isle 1, we are tasked with pairing a bunch of pink ghouls to eventually free Miss Chalice from the urn. It went a little something like this. Once again, after freeing her from the urn, she's so grateful to us that we are granted our Super Art number 2, a super that grants us temporary invincibility, allowing us to escape from sticky situations. We then speak to this NPC who tells us that she wants to get around faster and that there must be a shortcut that we can show her. After a little bit of snooping around, we find this shortcut behind the stone wall. Once we discover it and walk back to her to tell her about our discovery, she thanks us for our efforts and gives us a coin. Funfair Fever is conveniently placed right next to this NPC, so we decide to tackle that next. This level, in my opinion, is significantly easier than Funhouse Frazzle. The wizards that appear can either be killed or skipped. Then we can use the moving trampoline to parry the pink balloons as much as we want to increase our super bar. The enemies that are littered around here are very easy to avoid, and if we take the time to kill them, it makes moving through this level a breeze. There's only one somewhat tricky area that has a wall of cannons firing constant cannonballs at us that disable the platforms that are available. We also have to defeat the wall of swinging toys to progress through to actually take on the cannon wall. Once we do make it to the wall, it falls very quickly. The finale of the level includes bouncing pretzel creatures and a bunch of flying ketchup, mustard, and relish missiles from a huge hot dog man. Once we devour the hot dog man, we slide on through to the end of the level. Next up is Wally Warbles, a crazed cuckoo clock that takes our battle to the skies. In phase 1, Wally spits eggs at us, and once they hit the left side of our screen, they split into 3 smaller shells. He also occasionally shoots 3 big bullets at us and will be sending rows of bird minions throughout the fight. Phase 2 keeps the row of birdie minions, but turns Wally into a machine gun that fires waves of feathers to avoid. Keeping to the far left of the screen makes this phase quite easy. You just need to lock in and focus on dodging all the feathers. In phase 3, little Wally Warbles, Wally's son, pops out and floats around the screen with 5 spiky eggs orbiting him. They expand and contract as he floats around, so I had to make sure I wasn't getting caught off guard in the corners. He will shoot his laser gun as well, which is always a pink bullet that can be parried. In phase 4, Wally is lying on a stretcher, and him and his cronies spit up a bunch of items ranging from pills to food to even a pair of boots. We utilize the newly acquired bomb weapon to deal damage to Wally while safely flying above him and lobbing down damage. We wave Wally goodbye as his paramedic minions begin prepping him for dinner, I think? That's a weird form of cannibalism. Well, anyways, after those fights, we take a quick break and head over to Pork Rind's Emporium to do a little bit of shopping. With our 11 coins, we purchase Heart, which adds an extra hit point when we equip it, but reduces our damage output. Coffee, which continually fills our super meter in addition to what we get from dealing damage. And Lobber, a high damage weapon that is heavily affected by gravity and arcs when we shoot it. Now, for the finale of Aisle 2, Grim Matchstick. Grim is a big old dragon that has, in my opinion, one of the easiest boss fights in the game. Phase 1 has Grim firing lasers from his eyes, large fireballs, and also the occasional tail attack that comes from the bottom of the screen. It's a quick phase, and Phase 2 is even quicker. He moves to the left side of the screen and begins sending out his army of little fire elementals that jump at us to deal damage. Since the little guys jumping at us is the only threat of Phase 2, we can easily rack up damage on Grim while keeping an eye on the enemies below. Phase 3 can be a little bit tricky, because Grim gains 2 more heads that fire projectiles that burst into a 4-way split projectile if we hit them with our bullets. But by avoiding hitting these projectiles, we can stay fairly safe near the top platforms. When Grim uses his flamethrower attack, we are especially safe on the top row because it only deals damage to the middle of the screen. Lobber does crazy work in this fight because of its high damage, and the arc works perfect for all phases. After Grim, we walk downwards to the center of the main square, and behind these trolleys we find the hidden coin for this aisle. After a bit more snooping around, we find the 4th member of the barbershop quartet stuck behind this small tent. He mentions that he lost his way on the hunt for some coins and decides that it's time to head back to his pals. Once he rejoins his pals, we can interact with them, and if we choose, we can listen to a song sung by the quartet. The only issue is this song talks to us about taking a break and going outside to touch grass. So, we ain't doing that. Sorry boys, we're heading on to more boss fights. With all bosses defeated, we pass through the Dice House once more to bring us to Aisle 3. We are greeted by King Dice, who was surprised to see that we are actually quite successful with our task. He mentions that he may have underestimated us and grants us passage to the next area. Once we pass through, we get a cutscene of a discussion between the devil and King Dice, talking about how shocked they are that we're defeating all these debtors. The devil mentions that he's not worried about us and that he'll handle us himself if things get out of hand. Aisle 3 is the big city, the downtown district of Cuphead, home to some very interesting and opinionated folk. The city is closed off in most areas, so in order to continue exploring, we have to tackle our first downtown Aisle 3 boss. Rumor Honeybottoms is a queen bee, and we've just strolled into her hive. Phase 1 has a security guard from the hive along with the worker bees running amok. The security guard will throw out bombs every so often that explode, sending 6 stingers out in different directions. Focusing fire on the security guard will progress us to Phase 2, where we get to encounter the queen bee. Rumor has 3 attacks she cycles through during this phase. The first being a magic pink sphere that tracks us. The benefit being that we can parry it, but it's relentless with its tracking. The second attack is a magical triangle that fires out 3 projectiles from each of its corners. The third attack from this phase is when Rumor positions herself in the center of the screen and spits out beam missiles that move in an S-like pattern, up the left and right side. Once enough damage is done, she transforms into her final phase, which is a giant bee airplane positioned on the bottom of the screen. She will lean to the left and to the right, indicating that she's going to sweep the stage with her buzzsaw attack. We can easily dodge this because it's clearly telegraphed by her movement. Along with this attack, she sends out fist-like missiles from her launchers to home in on us. I decided to be quite lazy on this run and just use the chaser to allow for easy damage and focus on dodging, even though the lobber and roundabout weapons are extremely effective at taking damage of her low and very stationary positioning. Moving on over seaside to Captain Brineybeard's ship, we challenge this ocean-loving pirate to a battle. Briny is a bit different in the sense that for the majority of the fight he is positioned quite high, so it can be kind of annoying to attack him unless you get close and aim a diagonal attack at him. I opted for the chaser weapon in this fight just because it allowed me to strictly focus on dodging while dealing consistent damage. Yes, the damage is lower with the chaser weapon, but it was very consistent and it allowed me to focus on the dangers. For starters, there is a floating barrel that cycles left and right on the top of the screen the whole fight. It's not particularly dangerous, but if you aren't paying attention to it, it often ends up landing a free hit on you. For Phase 1, aside from Briny firing squid bullets at you with the pink squid he holds, he can also summon 3 different companions to help fight us. The first being a squid that shoots ink bullets, and if we make contact with the ink, it covers part of our screen. Second being the shark that attacks the whole left side of the screen in one sweep. And the third is the group of sea puppies that jump out of the right side of the dock and attempt to run us down. Luckily, these minions are easy to take down or dodge if we focus our fire on them. Also, once the boss's HP starts to decrease, Briny's ship will also start to spit out cannonballs across the dock intermittently. Once we hit Phase 2, we have already reached the final part of this boss fight. We start fighting the ship itself and now have to dodge flaming orbs that are spit out from the ship's mouth, as well as a laser beam blast that we have to either duck underneath or parry above until it disperses. We use the power of our super to have a nice clean fight and finish it off with a few more shots from our chaser. This level is full of miners and prospectors that clearly want us staying away from their gold coins. A few of these flame elementals also inhabit this area alongside roaring stone lions, dragons, sand mud monsters, skipping imps, pink spitting walls. We got a full house over here, really. The variety of enemies in this level is not lacking whatsoever. The end of this level finishes off with an ogre that chases us down a hallway full of some precise platforming. He doesn't speed up at all, so as long as we take our time with each jump and don't fall unnecessarily, we outrun him easily and finish the level strong. We then take a well-deserved trip over to Porkrind's Weapon Emporium to upgrade our current roster of weapons. We pick up Converge, an electric variation of the spread weapon, with the ability to cross the whole screen and also being able to narrow the spread of the weapon if we hold the lock button. With our remaining coins, we pick up Sugar, an equipment that allows us to automatically parry on our first jump. Since we spent our last dime, we stroll over to the Mausoleum. This being the third and final level, it is slightly challenging because there are quite a few ghosts to attack in a timely manner. While we are here, we also managed to get the 5 parries in a row achievement before touching the ground. We then clear the stage without too much difficulty and free Miss Chalice for the final time to unlock the third and final Super Art. Super Art 3 summons a giant ghost that you can control to deal damage independent to your shots, but the caveat being you have to control the ghost and Cuphead at the same time. This leads to some difficult coordination required to effectively use the super. Next on the chopping block is Werner Werman. Werner is a rat that uses an empty soup can as a tank-like vehicle. In this first phase, he fires bombs from a launcher atop the can, and then split into small flames on impact, as well as lobbing a barrage of junk at us. Once we deal enough damage, phase 2 begins as he breaks up the soup can armor and begins to wield a flamethrower that covers an area of the whole stage relative to his height. While we manage the flamethrower attacks, there are spinning bottle cap blades that are posted on the left and right side of the screen. When they start to spin, we know we have to get out of the way, and do it quickly. In his final phase, Werner is consumed by a giant cat that sends out ghost rats every so often to lob pink projectiles at us. He also has an attack where he swipes one of his arms across either the left or the right side of the screen. By paying attention to his movements in the background, we can easily read which side of the stage he intends on attacking. In doing so, we can mainly focus on dealing damage and avoiding the ghost-like enemies above us, quickly taking down this kitty cat. We waste no time running into the next boss fight against Dr. Cal and his robot. This fight starts with pitting us up against the gargantuan robot created by Dr. Cal. This robot has 3 separate attacks from 3 separate areas located on his body. The first from his antenna, the second from his chest, and the third from his waist. Also, it's important to note that once one part has been destroyed, he will then gain a different attack associated with that specific part that you destroyed. If you destroy the laser, his head transforms and then fires 5 nuts and bolts at you. If you destroy his chest, he will intermittently send out his arms to either shoot at you or bring out a magnet that disorients your movement by dragging you towards it. And if you destroy his waist, the telegraph bombs he shoots turn into homing missiles that explode on impact or after taking enough damage. Once all 3 sections are destroyed, his heart is exposed and he can quickly be dispatched. Phase 2 begins and is quite quick. The robot's head will torpedo along the bottom and top of the screen, requiring us to time our movements carefully and deal damage when appropriate. Then, in his final phase, Dr. Cal returns, using his gemstones to fire a barrage of crystal bullets at us. This section is just a complete bullet hell, requiring us to pay close attention to the flying gem bullets, avoiding the electrified walls, and then holding down the shoot button to do constant damage to him. He often fires out pink bullets, allowing us to parry them to gain more charges of our super bar. With some careful dodging and constant damage, we can take care of Dr. Cal and his rambunctious robot. Next up is Sally's stage play. Unfortunately, it seems we've caught her at a bad time, right in the middle of her performance. Sally utilizes the stage to her benefit, to try and rid us of taking her soul contract. Sally attacks us in a diagonal pattern while also tossing fan-like projectiles at us. This phase goes by quickly and we transition right into phase 2. She then begins summoning cars that ride along the bottom of the screen, which then make their way to the ceiling before falling down on us. While this is happening, she also continues her diagonal attack pattern, as well as having her baby throw milk bottles at us from the background building. In phase 3, Sally takes on more of a goddess-like persona and switches up her moveset once again. She will summon a meteor from the sky, lightning strikes from the heavens, and a large tidal wave that we have to maneuver over top of. If we manage to break open the meteor, it reveals a pink star that we are able to parry off of to aid us in dodging the tidal wave that she will eventually summon during this phase. In her final phase, she begins thanking the audience for her performance. As roses rain from the sky, and while her spinning umbrella patrols the bottom of the stage, this phase is extremely quick and she exits stage left shortly after. We exit the theater and take a stroll back down to the beach where we can take in some nice fresh air. And instead of taking on another boss, we decide to give ourselves a break with our fun run and gun. Perilous Piers is not only the next run and gun level, but also the last run and gun level of the game. As the name suggests, since we're on the pier, we are met with tons of fish-like enemies. barnacles that fire even more barnacles at us, little sea urchins that run back and forth, huge crabs that we can utilize to ride on their backs, this enormous lobster that swims back and forth, and a few little cute starfish enemies. I found with this level it's best just to move quickly. The longer I stuck around trying to wait and dodge things, I ended up getting hit more. Once that first half of the level is passed, we get to the area where we have to ride atop a giant octopus equipped to fire cannonballs at icebergs that litter the path ahead. By dodging waves of shrimp enemies, bubble bullets from the mollusk on the left, and parrying the gem above the octopus properly, we can safely destroy the icebergs, granting us safe passage to the end of the level. Right down the dock from the perilous piers is none other than Calamaria. This will be our last airborne boss of the base game, and it ends up being a quick one. In Phase 1, Calamaria is equipped with several attack patterns that she can use in quick succession. She can summon an army of pufferfish, a turtle that shoots a large spike ball, a redfish that fires 5 shots at you several times, a yellowfish that fires a homing electric eel, a seahorse that shoots up a stream of water to disorient you, and finally 3 ghosts that move very quickly and attack your last known position. Individually, these attacks are not too difficult, but when she combines 2 attacks together, it can sometimes overwhelm you. In Phase 2, she turns into a Medusa-type being, sporting snakes for hair and eels that emerge from the water, shooting more projectiles our way. She also has an unavoidable attack that turns us to stone. It doesn't do damage, but if we don't kill the eels when she freezes us, we are bound to be hit by one of their bullets. In her final phase, she becomes a disembodied head that floats through the tight cave, littered with spiky walls. She fires a giant scream at us that can turn us to stone, as well as floating poison bubbles. We quickly take her down and turn her into some fresh calamari. After we stop back on land, we take a quick detour behind this small kiosk and grab the secret coin from aisle 3. With our 6 remaining coins, we stop by pork rinds and pick up the whetstone and the heart ring to bring our wallet back down to a big ol' 0. But let's not stop here, this train is gonna keep on chugging. And by train, I of course mean the Phantom Express. This is the final boss of aisle 3, and I'm sorry to say this, but it's a tiny bit underwhelming. Visually, it's awesome. The boss fight itself is super cool, but it isn't very difficult. It seems all phases of the fight have fairly low health pools, so the fight flies by very quickly. Throughout the battle, pumpkins will try to drop bars on the wheels of the trolley that you stand on. As long as you parry the falling bars, they can't disrupt the position of the trolley. Phase 1 is the eye lobber. As long as you keep firing and destroying the eyes he throws at us, it's smooth sailing. Phase 2 is the skeleton conductor, which cycles his head and hands between the 3 openings of the train cars. Phase 3 has the 2 twin heads that spit out electricity and go down with a quick super. And Phase 4 is the train itself. He gains legs and we need to parry his tail to open up the furnace that holds his heart. Many fiery and bony projectiles fall down, but we are able to dodge them and cool off his burning heart. And that finishes off Inkwell Aisle 3, a total of 7 boss fights and 2 run and gun levels. Definitely the longest section of the game, but also one of the most fun and challenging areas as well. So with all soul contracts in our possession, we step on through to Inkwell Hell to face King Dice and the devil himself. And look, we finally made it. Back where our journey first began at the casino. Before heading in, we walk around to find any secrets. And sure enough, we find the final secret coin that we needed. With the front of the casino cleared out, we walk in to confront Mr. King Dice. As we walk into his dwelling, he greets us, but he says we can only speak to the devil if we play his game first. The King Dice boss fight works completely different than any other boss fight in the game. Instead of taking on King Dice himself, we have to traverse this board game-like path. The areas labeled 1 through 9 are all mini boss fights, with each number having its own boss behind it, without any repeats. Any spaces that have a heart above them will also grant you an extra heart, if you land on that space. Any space that says safe is a freebie with no boss encounter. At the very end of the board, there is a start over and a fin space, which will of course start the game over or end it. Now, with all of that out of the way, how do we actually roll the dice? Well, there is a pink dice in the middle of the stage that we can parry, labeled 1 through 3. We can time our parry to precisely land on whatever space we prefer. Rather than go through all 9 boss fights, I'm going to explain my preferred path, which allowed me to complete this boss fight with the least amount of stress. My first move was to roll a 2 to land on tile 2. This puts us up against Chips Bettigan, a stack of poker chips that move from side to side in segments, requiring us to duck under or jump over segments of his body to attack him. This fight is very easy and goes by quickly. Step 2 was to land on a safe space to avoid confrontation. Step 3 was to roll a 3 and land on the tile 6. This mini boss is Fear Lap, a skeletal horse that sends out boxes that contain an explosion of horseshoes. Also, along the bottom of the track, there are skeletal horse riders. If there is ever a blue spectral rider, he will fly up to attack us when we line up with his sights. The difficulty of this mini boss is entirely based on where he positions his gift boxes. If we have a lot of space between us and the boxes, we have ample room to move around and dodge how we see fit. Step 4 was to land on the next safe space so we could be strategic about our next encounter. Step 5, I decided to go with tile 7, Pirouetta. Pirouetta is a simple boss fight that has her dance left and right across the stage. We utilize our smoke bomb as well as the parryable floating chips, allowing us to dodge her when she approaches. When she uses her spin attack and launches tons of orbs into the air, we can once again easily dodge them with our smoke bomb dash. And our final step of the plan was to land on the next safe space with a 3, and then roll a 2 to land on Finn. This finishes the mini-boss portion of the fight and brings us into the final King Dice fight. It's a very simple fight with him sending out an army of playing cards from one side of the screen. We have to time our jumps and parries with the pink and black cards to volley ourselves in the air until we can safely touch the ground. This attack pattern repeats and repeats again until we deal enough damage to defeat him. Now, drumroll please, for the final encounter of the game, the Devil. He welcomes us in with open arms and acknowledges that we defeated King Dice as well. We are then given the option to hand over the contracts and join the Devil's team. And of course, like any logical hero of the story, we say yes. We hand over the contracts, become evil, and the game's over. Happy ever after, everyone. Okay, hold on to your hats, everyone. It's not over. I'm just joking. So we actually only had to say yes for an achievement. So let's go back and say no for real this time and take him out. So for the fight with the Devil, there are quite a few things to note in his phases. For phase 1, he has a lot of options for attacking. He can attack quickly with both hooves clasping the bottom of the screen, transform his head into a spider that bounces off the floor, transform himself into a snake that weaves along the base of the stage, summon 5 fire spears that rotate around, one being parryable in the center, summon 4 bouncy balls that fly around, one being parryable, summon 6 fireballs that home in on you, one being parryable. Also, throughout this first phase, his small demon minions will approach from the left and the right in conjunction with the Devil's main attacks. In phase 2, the Devil leaps out of his skin and drops into hell. In this area, we are limited to 5 platforms for our movement options. Also, burning poker chips will fall from the sky during these next phases of the fight. He then releases pink bombs out of his ears that can be parried, as well as spectral axes that move in a circular fashion that spawn from his eyes. A fairly quick phase compared to the first. Phase 3 reduces our platforms from 5 to 3. Flaming poker chips continue to fall, as well as the addition of 2 winged demons that will shoot skulls at us. They can be killed temporarily before respawning. Finally, for this phase, there are small winged demons that fly above us, serving as another way to damage and disorient us. Once enough damage is done, we enter the final phase with the Devil. We know he has reached his limits as he begins to cry. The platforms reduce to only 1, and tears and poker chips fall from the sky. We can narrowly avoid the falling chips by jumping and parrying a tear before landing back on the platform. This phase ends quickly, and with that, we have defeated the Devil and completed the main story of Cuphead. So after that quick celebration for beating the game, we can see that we have completed all achievements that we set out to do, except for one. For this High Roller achievement, the one that says collect every coin in the game, we have to go back to Aisle 2 for a moment, where we can speak to the juggler after we parried 4 or more times in the air before touching the ground, granting us a coin. We achieved this during the 3rd mausoleum, but we never came back to grab it. Also, I should mention that this High Roller achievement does not take into consideration coins that are earned in the DLC. So even though we have all coins in the game, we are still short some coins when it comes to buying all items from Porkrind's Emporium, which is also another achievement that we will eventually get. So that brings our total up to 18, which means we aren't even halfway there yet. We still have 24 tasks yet to complete. Now, let's bring up our next list of achievements. Get an A rank or higher on all bosses from Inkwell Isle 1, 2, 3, and Inkwell Hell, obtain a single S rank, beat the Devil at his own game, which means beating him on Expert, defeat King Dice without taking a hit, complete all levels without killing an enemy, and defeat a boss using only the mini plane bullets. Now, for these achievements, we are going to beat every boss on Expert. Beating a boss on Expert while still abiding by the grading restrictions can grant us a score as high as S rank. Majority of the fights require us to beat them in less than 2 minutes and 10 seconds, maintaining an HP pool of at least 3, parrying 3 times, and using the supercharge 6 times, either with 1 super and 1 EX, or using EX moves 6 times, however you choose to do it. And if you complete all of these during the fight, you'll be granted an S rank for that boss. For the achievement, they only require us to S rank 1 boss. And that's heckin' lame, so we're gonna S rank everything. By us S ranking every boss fight, we will of course also fulfill the requirements of getting an A rank in all the fights. A lot of these boss fights on Expert are quite simple and relatively similar to their regular counterparts, but some can be quite challenging. We won't spend too much time on each fight because we just went over all of them, but I will showcase what is different and which ones I had extra trouble with. The weapons I mainly used were Roundabout and Spread for high DPS, as well as utilizing the Heart Ring to allow me to gain extra hearts while parrying. Without further ado, let's jump right in. Aisle 1. The Root Pack. Super easy, they went down without a fight. Done. S rank. Ribian Croaks. Faster attacks, more of the attacks, and layering attacks. Took me a few attempts. Done. S rank. Goopy Legrand. Dude is literally a bouncy potato. Easy money. Done. Hildeberg. I struggled hard with this one. The amount of extra projectiles in this fight threw me off big time. Took me a grueling 2 hours to beat it, as I often kept falling short of the 2 minutes and 10-second timer as well. Not so easy money, but we took home the S rank. Cagney Carnation. The only hard part about this fight is the intro. He goes full Gatling gun mode and sends out a crazy amount of seeds that grow into smaller plants to attack you. I found a nice sweet spot near the first platform closest to Cagney to dodge the majority of the seeds falling. Once that phase is passed, his other phases are very easy to beat, and we get the KO. S rank on Isle 1 done. Isle 2, Baroness von Bonbon. All her mini-bosses are quite quicker and have slightly altered attacks. Overall, very similar to original difficulty, just faster paced, as well as end phase has her send out 2 heads instead of 1, KO'd, S ranked. Beppy, extremely easy, felt identical to regular, just a bit quicker with certain movements, easy S rank. Jimmy the Great. Similar to the other airborne boss, this took me so damn long. I had a lot of difficulty dodging the minions in his first phase and parrying enough to allow me to retain enough HP to take damage where necessary. The issue with this plan is I never reached the time restriction. I wasn't doing enough damage fast enough. I ended up swapping out the heart ring for coffee so I could regain my super meter quicker. Of course, the downside here is I can't get hit once because I won't regain my HP. Luckily, he goes down after many attempts and we scrape by with our S rank. Wally Warbles. I face a similar issue with Wally. I would end up getting to the end of the fight while using the heart ring to allow myself a few damage hits, only to fall short of the S rank due to taking too long on the timer restriction. So again, I bit the bullet and equipped coffee to allow for more damage with faster super recharges. After many attempts and lots of resets, we managed to snag our S rank and move on. Grim Matchstick. I went into this thinking it was going to be harder, but to my surprise, it went very, very well, and it was a super easy fight. Using the lobber like before and just avoiding the enemies as best as we could, I used the heart ring to allow for a few extra hits because damage and time was not an issue here. Isle 2 done. On to Isle 3. Rumor Honeybottoms. Lobber and roundabout for the win here. We were able to focus on dodging and let the weapons do the work. Captain Brineybeard. This fight required me to get into a good rhythm. There is just so much happening so quickly. We went in with coffee, dialed in our movement to lock in a quick KO. Sally Stage Play. This was another easy one. The only issue I found here was meeting the parry requirement. The star she releases from the meteor doesn't count towards your parries, so you have to parry the 2 kisses in the first phase, as well as 1 rose in her final phase. The rose could be annoying to parry if the positioning doesn't line up with yours. Werner Werman? More like Wiener Werman. What a loser. I just went full aggro on him, tanked hits, restored health with the heart ring, and used spreader to do close range damage, and he went down in 1 minute and 24 seconds. Easy S, baby! Dr. Cal's robot. Another fight that felt like kryptonite to me. I managed to find a good pattern where I could destroy both bottom sections of the robot at the same time with my bombs, then destroying his top laser and using our super on his heart. Phase 1 took down most of my attempts because of the overwhelming amount of projectiles you have to be aware of. His last phase was also just a nightmare because holy bullet hell. Luckily, we were able to use the heart ring on this fight and just barely scrape by within the timer. Those extra hits I was able to tank made a world of difference. Calamaria, surprisingly, was one of the easier fights for me. I thought for sure it'd be a nightmare to complete, but it was relatively simple. The big key to this was getting half decent luck on what she sent out for her enemies in phase 1. If you got good enough luck, it was easy to avoid damage in the last 2 phases, as long as you properly dispatched the eels in phase 2 and positioned well in phase 3. Phantom Express was a fairly easy fight as we could take the heart ring. Dealing enough damage wasn't an issue in this fight and the phases went by very quickly. Using heart ring, we were able to place ourselves in a safe spot and take down the runaway train without too much trouble. Finishing off our final S rank for Isle 3. Also during our boss rush of Isle 3, we picked up the Broken Relic, a mysterious charm that won't get much use until much later. We will uncover its mysteries, but it may take us some time. Now on to Inkwell Hell. King Dice. We did the exact same thing as we did before, taking down Chips Bedigan, Fearlap, and Pirouetta, while also collecting bonus hearts in the process. We take down King Dice with no issues and gain our first of 2 S ranks in Inkwell Hell. The Devil. Surprisingly, this fight went very, very well, and it only took me about 15 minutes to S rank. Things just came out a lot quicker in expert mode, but everything is relatively the same. We were able to bring Heart Ring with us and tank a few extra hits where needed because damage was not an issue at all. Parrying the tiers near the end granted us a bonus heart, and we finished off the Devil on expert, but also gained S rank in the process, taking out 2 achievements in 1. Now to work on the Pacifist achievement, we have to complete every run and gun level without killing an enemy. We are in fact able to parry enemies even if it looks like that the parry is killing them. As long as you don't shoot your gun, you're good. We worked backwards from Rugged Ridge since we just fought the Devil in Inkwell Hell. In order for us to get the Pacifist rank or P rank on these stages, we just have to win without dealing damage. It doesn't matter how much we parry, or how long it takes us to finish it, or how little health we have at the finish, as long as we don't deal damage. Perilous Pier was next. The only difficult part was not dying on the octopus near the end. We time our parries and tank some hits with Heart Ring and breeze through. Funhouse Frazzle was interesting because we had to find some creative ways to get through. If we slide through the mouth of the walls when the cars come through, we can actually slip past it without dealing direct damage to it, even though it looks like we're killing it. We dodge as best as we can and repeat the process near the end of the level on the second wall. Funfair Fever was easy because we could get our Heart Ring charges filled up on the pink balloon in the first area of the level. Once we had our 6 hearts, we blasted through the area with the cannons and also utilized our Super 2 that grants us temporary invincibility. Once near the end, we have 2 hearts left, so we jump down and tank a hit on the Hot Dog Man to win. Treetop Trouble was a breeze, and we did a similar strategy with gaining health on the early pink ladybugs and just steamrolling the rest of the level, not even engaging with the mini-boss at the end and just dashing right over him. Forest Follies, funnily enough, gave me the hardest time, even though it's the very first level. The part that had me stumped was near the end where the acorn machine was. I was trying to damage tank through it, but it didn't work. Eventually, after a few attempts, I led one of the pink puffs from the mushroom down and used my super to avoid damage. Once I did that, I could safely parry it and make it over the machine without having to kill it. Shortly after, we made it to the end of the level, concluding all pacifist run and gun levels. And since we're in the area, we decided to fight Hilda with only the mini airplane to get the last achievement. We challenged her on simple mode because it doesn't matter what difficulty she's in. She doesn't even have her final moon phase in this, so it was quite an easy fight. It only took us a while because the damage is just so minimal. It took us a whopping 4 minutes and 30 seconds to finish the fight, but thankfully we won't have to do it again. This lands us at 27 current achievements. Now, moving on to the final list of achievements, these have all been added from the Cuphead DLC. They include defeat all bosses on Inkwell Isle 4, get A rank on all the bosses on Inkwell Isle 4, complete your quest on Inkwell Isle 4, S rank 1 boss on Inkwell Isle 4, but you already know that we're going to be doing all of them, defeat a boss without killing any of its minions, defeat the King of Games champions, defeat the King's Gauntlet, defeat a boss with one of Porkrind's new weapons, defeat a boss with Miss Chalice, defeat 10 bosses with Miss Chalice, beat a boss with one of Miss Chalice's super arts, have 9 HP at one time, and the 2 hidden achievements are a horrible knight to have a curse, survive the nightmare, and paladin, obtain great power. Along with these achievements, we have one more from the base game that got left behind because of the way purchasing items works in this game. Butter and Eggman, buy everything from Porkrind's shop. We spent all our money in the shop but didn't buy everything from the base game, so the game hasn't given us the achievement yet. Once we get enough coins from the DLC levels, we'll be able to buy the base game weapon alongside with the remainder of the DLC weapons and equipables. To find our way to the DLC, we speak to the clock gentleman that owns the rowboat. He brings us to distant shores to explore the delicious last course. Once we reach Inkwell Isle 4, we're greeted by a familiar face. Miss Chalice emerges from an ethereal portal and informs us that she has a way to return to the mortal coil by having someone consume one of Chef Saltbaker's cookies. His baking is so incredible, it has the ability to temporarily bring Miss Chalice back to life. Once introduced, he then lets us know that he has a plan to bake the most amazing Wonder Tart to allow Miss Chalice to fully come back to life. He tasks us with collecting a list of exceptional ingredients for the recipe that are protected by the most fearsome and dangerous foes around Inkwell Isle 4. We happily agree to go looking for these ingredients in the hopes of bringing our dear friend Miss Chalice back to life. Once out of the cutscene, we notice that an additional charm has been added to our inventory, the Astral Cookie, which allows us to become Miss Chalice during battle. Now, Miss Chalice has a different set of abilities and limitations that can help or hinder us in different situations. Before taking on the tutorial for Miss Chalice, we speak with the newspaper delivery boy, who recognizes us from our efforts in defeating the devil. He thanks us for doing the world a favor and gives us 3 gold coins. Inside the tutorial, we learn that Miss Chalice is quite different than Cuphead and Mugman. Her jump height is slightly lower than the boys, but she's able to double jump. She can also parry by dashing into a pink object instead of pressing A in midair. This can be chained together with other parries, allowing her to stay in the air for a long time by managing parries correctly. Finally, if she's holding down and dashes, she will perform a roll, and in this roll animation, she will not take any damage at all. An extremely useful move if you get trapped in a tough corner, or in a spot where it's hard to avoid damage. We collect the free tutorial coin and take a stroll around this new unknown land. Walking downwards towards the coast, we discover a ladder leading to the skies. This brings us to the King's Leap, an extra mini-boss arena added to the DLC, giving us an extra challenge, as well as some extra coins upon completion. He welcomes us to his kingdom in the sky and lets us know that our charms and weapons will have no use in his arena. Hopping into the first mini-boss arena, we quickly learn that we are intended to only use parries to dispatch our foes here, the first foe being the pawns. The pawns are a group of little enemies that rain down from above, and our job is to wait till the ones that are glowing pink drop and quickly parry them. Each of these is fairly quick, and this first one is definitely the easiest. The second fight is against the knight, and this fight took me a few tries to get the right rhythm for. He typically stays to one side of the arena and can attack in 3 different ways: a lunge attack, a thrust upwards, and a wave of his sword above his head. The key is to patiently wait out the attack, and depending on the attack, you can capitalize on the small window available to parry his main. Once learning what attack he's going to use based on his animations, you can easily predict the attack and parry accordingly. Once we defeat the knight, the king sends us away with a few more coins. We assume we will be back to the King's Leap, but for now we can't continue with his trials. Instead, we take on the first boss of the DLC, the Moonshine Mob. This is by far my favorite boss of the DLC. It just feels very fresh and extremely creative in terms of the character design, the soundtrack, and in general just the style of the boss fight. In the first phase, Charlie Left Legs hits us with multiple attacks. He can kick a caterpillar at us that bounces around the screen, all for backup, and in doing so summons a bunch of small flies that appear from the background on each level of the arena. He can summon bombs that hang from webs, and if we walk through them and move too slowly, they blow up and we get caught in the explosion. Phase 2, Madcap Maddie dances on the screen and brings with her a gramophone. The gramophone sends out waves of energy that vary in color. When the color begins to change, it signifies the beam that has changed color is about to turn red. If you make contact with that, you will take damage. Small barrels will also appear on the platforms and can be destroyed or parried if pink. Phase 3 brings out Sydney the Snout, a big old boy. He extends his snout from different levels on the platforms, and can also shoot out his tongue to attack us. When he sends out his tongue across the screen, he'll pick up a ball of enemies that will bounce around the screen. We get a fake knockout notification, and Phase 4 begins with Hardtop Harold, the little snail dude popping out from under the hat. He has very low HP and can attack us with his megaphone. We send him packing and move on out with our newly acquired ingredient, Distillery Dough. After this boss fight, we can access the next section of King's Leap. He lets us in for the next mini boss fight, and we are up against the Bishop. The Bishop head floats around the room, and our objective is to snuff out all the candles that he lights up. Once all candles have been put out, we can parry him to do damage, and the cycle repeats. Each time we put the candles out and parry him, he will change the location of the lit candles and add more the further we progress into the fight. The Rook is the second last boss in King's Leap and has a very unique boss fight. He launches severed heads at you, which you can parry. If you parry them at the right angle, you'll send them back to him and do damage. Throughout the fight, he will also send small sparks at you from the bottom of the screen from the grindstone wheel. This fight is repetitive, but if you get in a good rhythm, you can take him down very quickly by landing parries in quick succession. For the grand finale of King's Leap, we have the Queen. She will summon a stack of chess pieces from one side of the arena, and you must parry them or it's a guaranteed hit on you. There are also 3 cannons that rotate back and forth, and you must parry them to fire them. Once they are facing the appropriate angle to hit the Queen, you can parry the top of them to fire the cannonball at her. She will also send out gold and jewels raining from above that must be dodged. After enough cannon shots, we say checkmate to the Queen and move on to the next fight. Esther Winchester, at first glance, has a whole heck of a lot of stuff going on. She has snake oil guns that shoot then cycle backwards and then attack you again, dynamite being dropped from the sky, flying donkey things that shoot spike balls, and then she can lasso a huge cactus on screen and take up either the top or bottom half of the arena. It took me a few attempts to get a good feel for the fight because I was getting so overwhelmed so quickly. Phase 2 is a lot simpler, with her sucking up a bunch of money and then firing it back at you from above. It goes by quickly and brings us straight into Phase 3, where Esther seems to have been processed and butchered and has now been turned into a flying sausage link cowgirl thing. I never thought my brain would ever have to piece together a sentence like that, but here we are. Anyways, there are also cans that float and shoot more sausage links at us, and also I should mention that the flying sausage link abomination thing can also shoot stakes at us, with some of them being pink and we can parry them. I don't know, man. And if that wasn't enough for you, her last phase is her being turned into a can of beef sausages that shoot even more sausages at you in the form of these nice tendrils that are exiting the can. Esther will also be spitting peppers at us during this, and some of them can be parried. We use our super on her, and finally she is taken out. That fight made me sweat a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. And the crazy thing is, it didn't take me that many attempts, it's just there's so many friggin' phases. We grabbed the desert limes for our recipe and ditched this crazy cow lady. After that stressful situation, we decide to explore the isle a little bit further before our next fight. We meet these 3 seemingly mundane NPCs in the top of the isle. They each tell us a short snippet of their performance in the climbing competition. Their dialogue seems unimportant at first, but we will have to return to them later for an important quest. We head to Pork Ryan's Emporium, pick up the last remaining weapons except for one. We then go for another little stroll and manage to find the secret path for this isle. To the far left of the secret path, we find the very last coin and head back to Pork Ryan's to completely clear him out. Over near the bottom of the isle, we find this elder ghost that claims he is trying to solve a mystery. He states that the contest of skill, the broken artifact, and the graveyard all hold spectral energy and are quite mysterious. When taking a closer look at the graveyard, we can interact with the tombstones and notice that small ghosts exit them. We can interact with a maximum of 3 before they disappear, giving the impression that there is a 3-digit code associated with these gravestones. We also discovered that we can't interact with the center gravestone, and that will be a useful bit of information for us later. After messing with the gravestones, we head back to work and take on our next bout. The Howling Aces is an airborne level, but we are not using a plane at all. We are using our typical arsenal while riding on the wings of a plane instead of piloting it ourselves. In Phase 1, the big bulldog will either shoot bones at us, with some being pink, or use a cat to shoot yarn balls at us, which we can duck under. During this phase, we also have small puppies tossing tennis balls at us that we need to dodge. In Phase 2, those same small puppies begin to circle us with jetpacks and shoot letters at us that spell out Bow Wow, with the letters sometimes being pink as well. Once we do enough damage, we knock these little buggers out of the sky and move on to the final phase. In this first part of the phase, we actually can't do damage. Instead, we try our best to dodge the lasers that are shot out from the plane's paws. All of a sudden, the screen flips and a control panel is opened up, revealing the operator of the plane. And in this phase, we can deal significant damage to her, so we use the spreader. It's important to note that during this phase, our controls are also messed with and get jumbled while following the orientation of how the screen was rotated. The captain of the ship goes down quickly, and we get the pineapple mint as our reward for our efforts. Mortimer Freeze is next on our list, and this fight was, let's just say very interesting. The fight starts off like a typical boss fight. Mortimer sends out his little ice minions to attack and then slams down with his huge whale. He repeats his pattern once more, then uses his magic card attack, sending 2 tarot cards at us, with one being parried. After that, this happens. Now, I don't know much about glitches in this game, and this could very well be a well-documented glitch already somewhere, but Mortimer just swings back and forth and does not attack us one bit. He doesn't even change phases at all. He remains in this form for the duration of the fight until we get a knockout. We're able to actually take him down during his first phase. We take the easy win and claim the icy sugar cubes. When we eventually return for our expert rematch for this fight, I'm sure we will be seeing the remainder of his phases. Glumstone the Giant is the last boss we have to deal with before we can deliver all of our delicious ingredients back to Chef Saltbaker. The fight starts off with us fighting Glumstone on some pillars wedged in his beard. During this phase, there is also a floor below us that we can step on, but we can't stay in the same place for too long. If we remain in the same spot for too long, we get attacked by the gnomes that are submerged under the floor. Also, the gnomes will intermittently jump out of the ground and shoot flames at us from below, or attack the platform that we are standing on. There is a lot loaded into this first phase, so you have to be on your A game. Phase 2 introduces the 2 sock puppets that toss a ball back and forth to one another. The height and trajectory of the ball depends on the position of the height of the sock puppet before they toss it. Also during this phase, there are more little gnomes that pop out of the ground and deal damage. The next and final phase takes place within Glumstone's mouth. We must dodge bones and drumsticks that are being spit out by his gut, and darts that are being sent out from the gnomes on the left and right of the screen. We have to also parry the platforms that are made out of these bony lizard things, because if a drumstick or a bone hits one of them, it either creates a parryable object or completely gets rid of the platform. We are able to take him down and beat up some gnomes on our way out to grab some delicious gnome berries. Now that we have everything we need for the Wonder Tart that Chef Saltbaker promised to help us make, we rush back to his bakery to hand him over the ingredients so we can get started on helping Miss Chalice. Though, when we arrive, Chef Saltbaker is nowhere to be found, except there is a very ominous trapdoor opening in his bakery floor. Once we get down into the basement, we continue to what must be some evil workshop. Who other than Chef Saltbaker is there waiting for us? He calls us meddlesome brats and brags that his Wonder Tart will be his finest work yet, granting him complete cosmic power of the astral plane. He mentions that he has one secret ingredient that he never told us about, a living soul, that being the one from Miss Chalice. He wants to take the ingredients from us, but we're not going to give them up without a fight. Chef Saltbaker has quite a lengthy first phase, and it's arguably his hardest phase. He has many attacks to choose from, them being the limes. When he sends them out, they act like boomerangs that cycle between the middle and bottom of the screen several times, limiting your movements. Sugar cubes that approach from one side of the screen that contain a pink cube every rotation, to parry. Strawberries that rain down strawberry missile slices from above. Cookie cutouts that bounce from one side of the screen to the other, and a continuous fireball that sits on the top of the screen and occasionally lunges down to attack us before returning back above. I would say this phase took me the longest to get, and the lime attack was the toughest for me to deal with. I kept getting hit by silly mistakes I would make, and trust me, I made a lot. Once we get into the second phase, we have to deal with 4 pepper shakers that we need to damage. Once we defeat them, they fly back into Chef Saltbaker to deal damage during this phase. The pepper shakers also sneeze small projectiles at us. Green leaves fall from above, and the fireball from the first phase returns and bounces on the floor next to us. The wavy pattern of the leaves descending caught me off guard in most of my attempts for this phase. Then, his final phase is probably the easiest of all the phases. He summons a small spinning salt enemy that we must dodge for a short time, and then begins the true finale. He creates 2 large salt tornadoes on either side of the screen, greatly limiting our movement. His salty heart then appears, and we have to climb glass platforms while parrying his heart. There isn't anything else to focus on in this phase. As long as you continue to climb the platforms and parry the heart accordingly, it's very simple, and that's exactly what we did. We take our victory against Chef Saltbaker and free our dear friend Miss Chalice. We then narrowly escape with our lives as the bakery collapses, and that concludes the main story of the DLC. We defeated the dastardly Chef Saltbaker and sent him straight to prison. But that isn't the end of the journey for our dear Cuphead and Mugman, as we still have a few achievements that weren't completed during that section of the DLC. The first task on our list is to finish everything up with King's Leap. Now that we have defeated all the enemies individually, we have the option to do a gauntlet, where we have to fight them one after the other. This is way easier than it sounds because our health is actually restored in between each fight. We end up using Miss Chalice for this gauntlet because her dash parry makes it significantly easier to land parries on these enemies, not to mention her invincibility roll in case we get caught in a sticky situation. This gauntlet goes by quite easily and we can move on to our next task. Our next task is getting S rank on all of the boss fights. We start with Esther Winchester, and I thought for sure I was going to be stuck on her for a while, but surprisingly, she only took me a few attempts. The main difference with the fight is everything is faster, she shoots more, there are more projectiles, and in general, you just have to lock in. The heart ring came in clutch though in this fight, because I definitely would not have gotten an S rank if not for it. The last phase of the fight, I parried so many pink peppers to top my health up right before the end of it. Moonshine Mob felt more or less the same. Again, everything was a bit quicker, there were more projectiles and enemies. The first phase tended to be the hardest just with the sheer overload of minions. Phase 2 was faster, but was still quite easy. Phase 3 and leading into Phase 4 were easy as well. Not too many things to dodge, just had to keep an eye out for his tongue and parry as many as possible. We also used the Chaser in these last two phases so I could focus strictly on dodging and get easy hits. S rank attained. Glumstone the Giant literally pissed me off so much just because of the first phase. Again, as you expect, everything is faster and shoots more, but it was these little stupid gnomes that just pissed me off to no end. They emerge from the ground so frequently and spit out fire out of their stupid little gnome heads so often, and you actually have to take them out. In the regular fight before, you could kind of just ignore them, but because they spawn so frequently, you have to prioritize them unless you want to just matrix your way through all their projectiles. I had to put down my controller at one point and come back to this fight just because of these little pests. Phase 2 and 3, easy and simple, no problem at all. S rank achieved and we no longer have to fight these stupid little turds. Howling Aces was another one I was surprised didn't take me as long. Besides the speed of the projectiles in Phase 1 and 2, the main difference that I felt was in Phase 3. Once the Robo-Dog plane emerges, the lasers it shoots are very quick and you have to be quite precise with your movements or it's almost guaranteed you'll get hit. They fire off 2 at a time instead of 1 now, so you have to pay attention to both. This can also get particularly confusing when the screen rotates and your controls change. Once we get access to damage on the captain of the ship behind the control panel, we do as much damage as possible as quickly as possible to take her down. Now the funny thing with Mortimer Freeze is that I don't even know what his other phases are like in regular mode, because I got lucky with that weird glitch on the first few attempts. Now that we actually have to fight all phases, I had to switch up my plan quite a bit. We ended up using Miss Chalice in this fight. She starts with 4 health, so that's really a plus, and her invulnerability dash would come in handy. We picked up Crack Shot and Boomerang and focused on dodging. His second phase is full of flying popsicles and deathly ice cubes and swords. Also, Miss Chalice has a secret weapon up her sleeve with her second super art ability. By using her super art 2, she can give herself a free hit. It spawns in as a floating red heart that will take the next hit of damage from Miss Chalice. The beauty of it being that while she has it active, she can start building up her super meter for the next free hit. We get fairly close to taking damage in this last phase against Mortimer, but take him down for another S rank. We end up using a similar strategy for Chef Saltbaker because it works so well. I definitely slept on Miss Chalice most of the DLC because I didn't think she was worth using, but clearly she is incredibly useful and can totally nullify some of these bosses with proper movement and ability use. So diving into the fight with Chef Saltbaker, the biggest hurdle again is Phase 1. The damn limes kept giving me a hard time, not to mention that they were faster and there are also 2 flaming enemies rather than 1. Miss Chalice makes this phase way more bearable with her dash parry and her invulnerability roll. Phase 2 was tricky with very tight movements, but with the use of her super arts, taking hits, and utilizing the fact that she can jump twice and dash twice in the air, we can carefully dodge all the projectiles. In Phase 3, we take a dumb hit at the start, but then we end up clowning on this phase no problem. We don't get hit once between the salt pillars, and utilize her super art to dodge damage and Chaser to get consistent damage while parrying. A super clean S rank, and Miss Chalice closes off this chapter of our playthrough. With all S ranks achieved on all bosses, we now look at the achievement to defeat a boss without killing one of its minions. I went with Esther Winchester on Simple, and was just very careful and made sure not to kill any minion during the first phase. The rest of the phases were easy, and that was a quick pickup for our achievement list. The next 3 are pretty quick, and they're all with Miss Chalice. We need to beat a boss with her, which has already been done, defeat 10 bosses with her, which we've already done a few, and defeat a boss with one of her super arts. Now, because we've already defeated some bosses with Miss Chalice, we do have some numbers already allocated to those achievements, but because we really haven't used her too much, I figured I'd go ahead and beat 10 bosses from the base game with her, just for the fun of it. We load up Simple on the root pack and use our Super Art 1 to finish off Mr. Carrot. We demolish Ribby and Croaks in 56 seconds, Goopy enjoys his 40 seconds of the limelight, Cagney has his sunlight snuffed out by Miss Chalice, knocked out Baroness von Bonbon's Sweet Tooth, we bopped Beppy's balloon, extinguished Matchstick the Dragon's Flame, spread a lethal lie to Rumor Honeybottoms, caught Werner in our trap like the rat he is, and finally sunk Briny Beard's ship, marking 10 boss fights, and we can finally retire Miss Chalice. Now, we're getting very close to the end of this video, so the final achievements that we have left are these 3. Hardy, have 9 HP at one time, A Horrible Night to have a curse, survive the nightmare, and Paladin, obtain great power. Since we're in Inkwell Owl 3 at the moment, it makes the most sense to do the Hardy as our next task, achieve 9 HP at one time. My plan was to take Heart Ring into the King Dice fight and parry as much as possible to attain the 3 free heart points, as well as land on 3 King Dice mini-boss spaces that grant the free heart. In theory, the plan made sense, but I would get hit by the dumbest things at the worst possible times. The good thing about this achievement though, is I got a lot of good practice against every single one of the mini-bosses that King Dice has. Some are super easy, and some are just plain stupid in my opinion. On a successful run, we rolled a 1 and fought the Tipsy Troop first. I managed to knock out the lowest and highest enemies in this fight, which just left the Martini Glass. I decided to take this opportunity to parry as many of her living eyeball shots as possible, maxing out my Heart Ring on this fight alone. Our second roll landed us on number 5, which is Hocus Pocus. And this guy is a colossal pain in the butt. He has an attack that surrounds you with skulls, and there are some configurations that are almost impossible to dodge without Smoke Bomb. I took my Super R2 luckily and was able to quickly use it on the one attack I knew I couldn't dodge. Next we landed on the tile 8 and gained our 9th heart. We didn't even bother to continue with this because we just needed the hearts. We didn't need to kill any more bosses. The final 2 achievements go hand in hand, and they circle back to that weird relic that we got back earlier in the playthrough, and the Tombstone Puzzle in Aisle 4. To solve the Tombstone Puzzle, we had to go and speak with the 3 climbers that were telling us a secret code the whole time that we need to input into the tombstones. The left climber says they are in 2nd place and are feeling down. The middle climber says that they are in 1st place and left her opponents in the dust. The right climber says I let them down, left the race in 3rd. Now if you piece it together, that means the 1st climber is left, the 2nd climber is down, and the 3rd climber is down left. That 3rd one threw me off a little bit, but it makes sense now that I read it over. By interacting left, down, down left, in that order from the middle tombstone, we complete the puzzle and unlock something. Interacting with the tombstone allows us to take a nap, and we end up waking up in a nightmare against the angel and demon. This fight is extremely unique, and I love the idea, because the projectiles and attacks change depending on which way you are facing. No matter what, the demon will be the direction that you are facing, and the angel will always be behind you. As soon as you turn around, all projectiles and attacks that were harmful will be nullified, and vice versa. This fight is very screwy with your head, and it can be confusing to grasp. The big thing that helped me is to just remember that anything in front of you will hurt you, anything behind you won't, except for the storm cloud in the middle. The only time you really need to turn around is if you need to switch the state of the fire beam that is approaching you. Once it passes you, you can turn around again and continue to attack. Staying near the center of the stage also helped me a lot, giving me ample time to react to which direction I need to face to stay safe. I had a clean fight, but got hit twice near the end, luckily still securing the win. Defeating them grants us the Survive the Nightmare achievement, and now we can tackle the last hurdle of this game. By beating those 2, we also awakened the cursed relic that was purchased way back. Now that the relic has awoken, we can actually equip it and receive its effects. This item is interesting as it inflicts debuffs and curses you when equipped. The unique quality of this charm is that the more bosses you defeat with it equipped, the greater it grows in power. In simple terms, you equip it and it curses you. Beat a boss and it powers it up, eventually giving you more beneficial stats instead of negative stats. This is the chart from the Cuphead wiki that explains the buffs and debuffs that we expect to get. Now apparently different bosses give different amounts of points to upgrade the relic. These points are invisible in the game but can be looked up online. I just decided to fight whichever bosses I felt like and would check the relic after each fight to see its stat. The best part about this relic is that it always starts us off with 1 HP when equipped. It also randomizes our weapon. If we use an EX charge, our weapon changes. If we stop shooting, our weapon changes. And it just cycles randomly between them all. So good luck and have fun. Also, this super spooky music plays the whole time while we have it equipped. Oh, spooky. So let's get this all wrapped up. We pay the root pack a visit and get rid of them without much trouble. Our recording then gets corrupted, presumably another debuff of the cursed relic. During this cursed footage debuff, we take down Ruby and Croaks on the first run through. Ignore that sound cue, please and thank you. We revisit Goopy and take him down without too much trouble. Our good old friend Hildeberg gets shot out of the sky quickly and efficiently, and by efficiently, I mean it took me 15 minutes. Cagney gets hit with some shots of Weed Whacker and swiftly falls to our Cursed Relic power. Beppy stands no chance against our randomized weapons, and cowers in fear of our strength. Rumor Honeybottoms is where we set our target next, and the rumor she heard about us kicking ass and taking names is correct. At this point, our Cursed Relic is fully charged up, and it's only a matter of time before it becomes cleansed. We take on Sally's stage play as our final bout, and attempt to ruin her performance on stage. She puts up a fight, but we put up a stronger one, and take her down in front of her fans. Once we reach the overworld, we are greeted by a new tune being played, and a brand new charm placed within our inventory, the Divine Relic. It's a shame that we did this one last because we aren't even going to use the Divine Relic at all. The fact that it doesn't even reduce your HP to 1, but still gives you the benefit of Heart Ring, Coffee, Whetstone, and Smoke Bomb is crazy good, but that's okay. Now that everything's completed, we can take a look at our list and see all of our rankings. That means S rank on every single boss fight and Pacifist or P rank on every run and gun level. Not only that, but that also means that every single achievement in this game has been acquired, which means we have completed 100% of Cuphead, or 300% depending on how you or the game wants to look at it. I want to thank you all for watching this episode of I100%. I thoroughly enjoyed this playthrough and I can't wait to take on my next I100% challenge. If you liked what you saw and want to see more, please like or comment or subscribe, whatever you want to do. I would greatly appreciate it. Let me know what you'd like me to 100% next in the comments below. Once again, thanks so much for watching and have a wonderful day.